Hey everybody, Charles from GMAT Ninja Tutoring here. Today we're going to talk about overlapping sets questions on the GMAT and executive assessment. Some people call them Venn diagram questions. Going to give you some nice clean tools for organizing your information on these, regardless of whether you have a two-way or three-way overlapping sets question. Now, we used to consider this a fairly minor topic on the GMAT. It was maybe 3 or 4 or 5% of questions. That was about it. I'd say that's still true on the quant section, but GMAT seems to love overlapping sets on the data insights section. You're going to see quite a bit of it on data sufficiency, even a little bit of it on the other data insights question types. So we're going to hit it on both quant problem solving style and data insights and data sufficiency questions today. And we're not going to melt your face off with difficulty. The thing about overlapping sets is there's not a lot there that's technical, really kind of basic building blocks of those. And then from there, they're just messing with the language. And we're going to give you some tools for kind of getting through that language and figuring out what they're really trying to tell you in that information. So this is part of our full free GMAT course that we have on our YouTube channel. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like button, please subscribe. If you want some one-on-one attention, you're not quite sure what's going on, the videos aren't quite doing it for you, but you like our style, hit us up for one-on-one tutoring, gmatninja.com. And if this is doing the trick for you, you're getting a lot of these free videos and it's saving you from spending money on a course somewhere, please visit our website. We encourage you to donate to some of our favorite charities. Whatever money you're saving via these videos, please pay it forward. Got some favorite charities up there. If there's a charity you like even better, love to hear about it. Please reach out to us via our website. All right, with that, we're gonna go through 7 questions today. First few are gonna be pretty fundamental. Not gonna melt your face off as the video goes on, but they'll get pretty tough even if your score is kind of in the 80s on the GMAT quant. Some of them towards the end will get tough. We're going to start with some fairly basic ones. Here's your warm-up question. Go ahead and take a couple of minutes on this one. All right, fairly simple, straightforward question as far as overlapping sets goes, but even for something that's this basic, little bit of a word salad, and really our goal in this video is to give you a bunch of tools for pulling that word salad apart, turning into something nice and concrete for yourself, even as these get tougher and tougher. Now, when people first see these, often the instinct is to turn into what's called a Venn diagram, where each circle represents something. So maybe this circle is the percentage of people who eat Vareniki, this circle is the people who drink Nemirov. And this is logically totally fine if you're a fan of these, cool, but what we find is that a lot of students really struggle to use this well. So for example, 70% are eating Vareniki, and we stick a 70% here. Does it refer to the full circle or just this little part of it? And as you go further and further on a question like this, you kind of go, well, where do I put the 45%? Where do I put the 35%? And it just gets messy. It gets hard to label. It gets hard to keep that information straight, which is why for most people, I don't recommend this. If it's working for you, knock yourself out. Easier thing for the vast majority of people is to do something like this. Some people like to call it a double set matrix. Some people call it a grid. Whatever you want to call it is fine with me. Call it Bruce. I don't care. But you have two kinds of people in the world. You have people, or at least people at this restaurant, You have people who eat Venn. You have people who do not eat Venn. Those people are sad. And then you have the total. And then down this side, you can get the other set of things. So everybody either drinks Nemirov, they do not drink Nemirov. And then you have the total. And obviously the total is just 100%. Now from here, it really just kind of functions like a little, almost like a little Sudoku puzzle. We know that 70% of the customers eat Venn. So the total that eat Venn is 70%, which means that the percentage of people who do not eat Venn must be 30%. Same idea with the Nemirov. So 45% do drink it. That's the total over here, which means 55% do not. Very exciting. And now as this language gets a little bit more complicated, just be a little bit patient with it. 35% ate Venn but did not drink Nemirov. So 35% ate Venn did not drink Nemirov. So that's going to be here. That's your 35%. Now everything has to add up nicely, right? So you can fill out the rest of the chart easily enough. So 35%. This has to be 25%, or sorry, 20%, because 55% minus 35 is going to give you 20%, and so on. So this has to be 35% so that these two add up to 70. This has to be 10% so that these add up to 45. We've got everything we need. Now again, just be patient with the question. Always read it twice just to watch your back. What percentage drank Nemirov but did not eat Venn? That's going to be 10%. And your answer is A. So again, I don't want to pretend that this is a magic thing. People say, ooh, the grid method, it's amazing. It doesn't solve it for you. It just organizes your information. As these questions get tougher and tougher, for most of you, that's going to help you a ton and be better for you than a conventional Venn diagram kind of thing. All right, going to give you a slightly harder one now. Go ahead and take a couple minutes on this one. All right, if you need a little more time on this one, feel free to take it, hit the rewind button, pause as needed. Again, welcome to the GMAT, overlapping sets, nothing terribly hard here mathematically, not usually anything terribly hard conceptually until we get into the really nasty ones, but they're gonna give you this big old word salad. The task is, can you be patient, read carefully, find ways to pull it apart, make it nice and neat for yourself. Again, I'm gonna lean quite a bit on this, not because it does anything magical, but it's gonna help me organize my information. In this case, we know we have two different kinds of people at the school. We've got teachers, we've got administrators. I'm going to put that up top. Either you're a teacher or you're an administrator, and we have the total. Then it talks about people with graduate degrees. And obviously there's two kinds of graduate people in the world, people with graduate degrees and people with no graduate degrees. And the total, we know the total, as always, is going to add up to 100%. Okay, let's just take it sentence by sentence here. If 72% have graduate degrees, stick that there. Do a little subtraction, 100 minus 72, that means 28% of the employees do not have graduate degrees. Here's where it starts getting fun. 45% are administrators with graduate degrees. Administrators with graduate degrees, 45%. I can do a little more subtraction here. 72 minus 45, that gives me 27% that are teachers with graduate degrees. And that's all I can do. I can't fill out these other 4 boxes, and maybe you feel like, hey, something's wrong here. But look what they're asking you. So what percentage of employees with graduate degrees are teachers? What does that mean? Employees with graduate degrees, so 72% are employees with graduate degrees, 27% are teachers with graduate degrees. So what percentage of the employees with graduate degrees are teachers? If it helps at all, imagine that there are only 100 employees here. 72 have graduate degrees, 27 are teachers with graduate degrees. So just divide 27 by the 72. That's going to give us the percentage of the people with graduate degrees who are teachers. And again, GMAT, you're always looking for ways to simplify this. Don't do long division here. No reason to. Very rarely is there a reason to do long division on the GMAT. I see a common factor here, divide by 9. So divide the top by 9, I get 3. Divide the bottom by 9, I get 8. So 3/8 of people with graduate degrees are teachers. That passes the sniff test, feels about right. And 3/8 as a percentage is going to be 37.5%. That gives us B, and that's our answer. Notice, of course, that A is one of your answer choices. Welcome to GMAT overlapping sets. You want to be super, super careful. That 27% is people who are teachers and have graduate degrees. The question is asking us, of the people who have graduate degrees, what percentage are teachers? So look a little bit deeper than just that box. You've got to think about what exactly are they asking me. I've got to divide this number by that number to get to B. All right, fun times. More fun with language. Go ahead and take a look at this next one. All right, if you need a couple minutes, you want to grapple with this some more, hit the rewind button, pause for as long as you need to. Obviously, we've kind of changed the game a little bit here. Previous couple of questions, we had 2-way overlapping sets. There were 2 things, teachers, administrators on one side, graduate degrees, non-graduate degrees on the other. This is a little bit different. We've got people visiting 3 different places. Now we're in the land of 3-way overlapping sets. This chart thing, guess what, guys, doesn't work here. You can't shoehorn it in here. So we could say, okay, we've got people who went to Latvia, people who didn't, and the total, and Estonia, not Estonia, and the total. But where we put Lithuania, it's got to kind of come out 3-dimensionally. This isn't going to work. That's going to be a mess. Okay, so some people say, let's try Venn diagrams. This is the traditional way to do them. Again, this will work, but it gets a little bit messy. What ends up happening here typically is you end up with a bunch of variables all over the place. We can call this A, and this B, and this C, and this D, and you can kind of set up a little formula. You'll get there eventually. It's cumbersome. It's a little bit painful. I'm not saying it's wrong. different strokes for different folks. Get the questions right however you can. I'm going to show you a different way that I think is a little bit more intuitive and certainly more efficient once you master it. So instead of doing this, let's think about what's really going on here. Like, what the heck is the point of this? What's going on? Where are these numbers coming from? So first of all, you've got 84 individual people. But if you add up the number of people who visited these countries, so we've got 50 who visited Estonia, 45 who visited Latvia, 28 who visited Lithuania. Add that up, you're going to get 123. And you could call those countings. What I mean by that is, yeah, if you add up the individual times we're counting people, we're saying, hey, I'm counting the 50 people as they walk into Latvia, or 45 people as they walk into Latvia, 50 people as they walk into Estonia, 28 as they walk into Lithuania. I counted 123 people. Right, but there's only 84 people. The deal is some of them visited 2 countries or 3 countries. We want to pull that apart, figure out how many visited exactly 2. So we're just trying to figure out, hey, what's up with that extra 39 people or so? All right, very simple way to do it. 3 columns. First column. So number of countries per person, or countings per person if we're in a different context. Everybody in this setup, everybody visited at least 1 country. So we've got people who visited 1 country, people who visited 2 countries, people who visited 3. Pretty straightforward. Next column. We've got the number of people in each group. So we know that 15 people visited exactly 3 countries. We're trying to figure out how many people visited exactly 2 countries. I'm going to call that X for now. I'm going to leave this blank for a second. We'll circle back to it in a moment. And we also know that these 3 numbers have to add up to 84. We've got 84 people total, so the number of people who visited 1 country, plus the people who visited exactly 2, plus the people who visited all 3, got to add up to 84. And then we have the number of total countings that each of these groups of people accounts for. And I'm going to circle back to that in just a moment, but we know that that has to add up to 123. All right, hardest little part of the question, not that big of a deal, but this is where people tend to get messed up. There's a temptation to stick an extra variable in there. You don't need it. Think about what's going on here. If this plus x plus 15 equals 84, we can express this in terms of x, and everything's going to clean up really nicely. So 84 minus 15, that's going to give me 69. 69 minus x would be the number of people who are visiting exactly 1 country. You can double check it. 69 minus x plus 15, that gives me my 84. Okay, now a little bit of multiplication and we're almost done. So we'll start with these guys who visited 3 countries. How many countings did they account for? 3 countries each times 15 people. That's going to give me 45 countings that we've accounted for. These x people who visited 2 countries each, that's 2x. Don't overthink this one. The 69 minus x in 1 country each, just going to be 69 minus x countings. Add those up, 1 equation, 1 variable. I really like your odds here. I think good things are going to happen. So we've got, let's see, if we simplify this a little bit, I'm running out of space on my board. 69 plus 45 is going to give me 114. So 114 minus x plus 2x, that's just plus x equals 123. Oops, not 129, 123. 123 minus 114, that's just going to give me x is 9. And that is it. Okay, it's going to feel a little bit like linear algebra. It feels a little bit like a black box, but not so bad in the end. I think it's a lot easier than trying to jam everything into a Venn diagram. And as long as you can follow this logic, number of countings per person, column number 1, number of people in each of those groups in column number 2, number of countings, it's just going to be the product of your other 2 columns. And you're going to have 1 equation, 1 variable. That's it. Now, a little bit of context. These questions aren't super, super crazy common on the GMAT. I've had people who take the test and say, ooh, I saw 3 of those on my exam. That's really, really rare. A lot of you are going to go take the exam, just 21 questions on Quant. You might not run into these at all. You might see a couple of them on data insights as well. So these aren't crazy, crazy common. If you're struggling with this, don't lose too much sleep over it. But it's a really nice thing to have in your back pocket, because if you do run into one and you can master this technique for tackling them, you're going to be super, super efficient with them. All right, we're going to hit some data insights next. Here comes a little data sufficiency question. Go ahead and take a couple minutes on this one. All right, now we're in the wonderful world of data sufficiency. You're going to see a lot of overlapping sets on data insights. Seems to be disproportionately represented over there. They really enjoy this. One of the big things that intimidates test takers with data sufficiency with overlapping sets is it feels like you've got to draw this little chart 3 times. Once for statement 1, a second time for statement 2, and then potentially a third time. If you still don't have your answer, you need to combine the statements. I'm going to show you a quick little thing along the way here that's going to save you from doing that. As always on data sufficiency or problem solving, I know it's a broken record. It sounds really silly. If you missed this question, the reason is almost certainly that you didn't read carefully enough, didn't really think about the implications of what's there. What am I saying? So we've got a town of 200 residents. Everybody either eats, so everyone eats jollof rice or suya or both. Okay, so we've got two kinds of people going on here. People who eat jollof rice, they're very happy. People who do not eat jollof rice, they're missing out. And the total. And we've got people who eat suya, people who do not eat suya, and the total. And in this case, we know the total is 200 residents. First couple questions we did, it was percentages. This time it's just a number. That's totally fine. Either way is going to work. Still the same logic. This plus this is going to give you 200. This plus this also gives you 200, and so on. All right. So we want to know how many eat suya, but not jollof. So that goes here. That's what we're after. Now, if from here you jumped into the statements, that's where all of this ran off the rails for you. All of the residents eat jollof rice, or they eat suya, or they eat both. Okay, so we've got people who eat jollof rice, but not suya. Cool. We want to know the number of people who eat suya, but not jollof rice. We've got people who eat both. They didn't say it explicitly, but how many people eat none? Neither of those things. Nobody. Everybody in this town eats suya, or jollof, or both. So this is a 0. We have a number in there that's implied. Welcome to Data Insights. It's a little bit slippery. I think it feels a little bit gimmicky, to be honest with you. But this is the kind of thing that shows up fairly often, this particular thing on overlapping sets questions. Just be really, really, really literal. Take an extra moment with that language. Because again, if you miss this, that's most likely the reason why. All right, now we've got it onto statement 1. Exactly 140 eat jollof rice. Okay, here's a little thing that can save you from having to redraw this a bunch of times. So anything that comes from that first statement, I'm just going to stick in a little corner of the box. So 140 eat jollof rice, so we're talking about jollof, the total. So I'm just going to stick that in a little corner, 140. Anything I derive from statement 1, I'm also going to stick in a little corner. So that's 60. Wait a minute, 60 minus 0 is going to give me 60. And my answer is A. Well, my answer is not so A, but A is sufficient. Statement 1 is sufficient by itself. I can cross out B, C, E. Now, here's the thing that saves you trouble down the line. I can cross these guys out and start all over again with statement 2, and I don't have to redraw the thing. Let's do that. Of the residents who eat jollof, 40% also eat suya. Now, I don't know how many eat jollof, but so we can give it a variable, say that's J. So of those, 40% also eat suya, so 0.4J would go up here. I suppose we could stick a 0.6J here. Do we have what we want? We still don't, right? I mean, I suppose I could get a 0.6J here, but there's no way to get at this one. So it is not, statement 2 is not sufficient, so I can cross out D. My answer is A. Now from here, even if you needed to go look at the two statements together, you're in business. You just put this stuff back in, and off you go. So again, you only have to draw it once. Statement 1 only, stick it in a little corner. Going to save you a little bit of trouble there. And again, I know it's a broken record, and we have a million different ways that the GMAT goes about kind of disguising language. This is a particularly nasty one. I think it's a little bit cruel, but that's the kind of thing you're looking for. That's why we always tell you, read the question twice. Take a breath, spend a little bit of extra time reading, invest that extra 5-10 seconds. Make sure you're catching exactly what they mean. All right, next question, go ahead and take a couple minutes. All right, if you need more time on this one, feel free to take it. I can't really make these questions any tougher than this. We got 2 more questions after this in the video that kind of cover more specific things. I might argue this is the hardest one. You're very unlikely to see anything nastier than this in the realm of overlapping sets on the GMAT or the EA. So you might be scoring deep into the 80s on the GMAT or well into double digits on the EA, you know, awfully close to a top score, and you might struggle with this. No shame in it at all. If your goals are more modest, this should kick your butt. If you're getting it anyway, good on you, but please don't feel bad if you struggled here. All right. 2-way overlapping set, straightforward in theory, really rough language. We got 2 kinds of shipments at this meat packing plant. We've got shipments with salmonella, we've got shipments without salmonella, and we've got shipments that are rejected. We've got shipments that are not rejected. Let's take it sentence by sentence, see if we can pull this apart. 1/5 are tainted with salmonella. I'm gonna turn that into a percent just because that's a little bit easier for me to work with typically. You can do whatever you want here if you prefer to leave the 1/5. That is totally fine, but we've got a lot more percents going on. I think 20% is going to be easier on me. So we know the total is going to be 100%. We know 80% must not be tainted with salmonella. Now we get into all the ofs. 80% of the tainted shipments with salmonella are rejected. So 80% of 20%, 0.8 times 20, that's going to give me 16% that are both rejected and have salmonella. And then we have 4% that have salmonella and are not rejected. A little bit scary when you think about that. I actually had a buddy that used to work at a meatpacking plant as a microbiologist, and he texted me one day and is like, hey man, don't eat any pizza from this chain or that chain this week because I think I botched a shipment. Anyway, if the total number of rejected shipments is equal to 1/3 of the number of untainted shipments that are not rejected, what percent of rejected shipments are not tainted? That's a mess. Be patient, take a breath. It's not quite as bad as it looks. So total number of rejected shipments, that's total number of rejected shipments here, I'm just going to call that R for now, is equal to 1/3 of the number of untainted shipments that are not rejected. So this is equal to 1/3 of this. Think about that for a second. I could stick some fractions in here. What I think feels better is this, the number of untainted samples that are not rejected must be 3 times the number that are rejected. So if this is R, this is going to be 3R. And now guess what, guys? We're in business. This isn't going to be so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this column here. So R minus 16 gives me this right here, the number of rejected shipments that are not tainted. So R minus 16%. And now we've got what we want. We've got one equation, one variable. This plus this has to give me 80%. Let's rock and roll. R minus 16% plus 3R. I'm running out of space, is 80%. Apologies for the hideous handwriting. So we got 4R minus 16% equals 80%. So 4R, 16 plus 80, 96%. Divide everything by 4. That's going to give me 24%. And okay, great. So I've got a 24% here. That's great. This is going to be 8% right here. So 3 times R, so 24 times 3 gives me this one right here. That's 72%. And now at this point, this all felt like a black box. As soon as I start throwing variables into this matrix, I start to go, wait a minute. My intuition starts to go on me for a moment there. So now that I have a number for R, a solve for R, I'm going to take a moment. I'm just going to sanity check and make sure it all adds up. If everything adds up, I've got something. So 24 here, 8 here, 72 here, 4 plus 72 gives me 76%. Really good sign. Maybe there's some way we screwed this up that still adds up, but at least everything adds up in here. Pretty good sign we're on the right track. Now, all we have to do is make sense of this. I always like the word approximately. What percent of rejected shipments are not tainted? How many rejected shipments are there? That's 24%. What percent of those are not tainted? We saw this similar language in a question earlier. So 8% are rejected but not tainted, 24% total rejected. So just divide again. 8% rejected but not tainted, divided by 24%, the total rejected. And that gives me 1/3, which is going to be 33 1/3%. All right, again, can't say it enough. Really, really, really tough question. As hard as the language gets here on the GMAT or EA. And if you struggled here, no shame in it at all. All right, going to switch gears just a little bit. This next one is going to combine a couple concepts. You might find it really tough. It's not quite as bad as it looks. We'll go through it in just a minute. Go ahead and take a couple minutes on this one. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch here. This is a nice, in theory, it's a simple two-way overlapping set question. Just a couple of concepts in here you're going to see occasionally on GMAT questions. Nothing crazy, crazy difficult. But if you haven't seen it before, a little intimidating, a little bit weird. First of all, this business of probability, honestly, this is no different. You might be like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't click on a probability video. What are we doing here? Imagine that instead of saying the probability is 0.7 that X occurs, imagine that it's phrased like some of our other questions. 70% of restaurant patrons eat food X, 30% do not. 85% of restaurant patrons eat food Y, 15% do not. It's going to be exactly the same thing. The overlap works exactly the same way. So if you have that in mind, really this isn't so bad. That's part one. So let's go ahead and fill this stuff in. So we've got X, we've got not X. What's the probability that X occurs? It is 0.7. So if we've got X and not X, those two are going to have to add up to 1. So what's the probability that X does not occur? That's going to be 0.3. Makes sense. Probability is 0.7 it occurs, 0.3 it does not occur. Total is going to be 1. Just like saying 70% of the patrons eat food X, 30% do not, adds up to 100%. Just expressed as probability, as decimals instead of as percentages, no problem there. Y, not Y. Total. So we've got a 0.85 probability that Y occurs, 0.15 probability it does not. So that's part one. Don't get intimidated if you see probability in an overlapping sets context. Not super crazy common on the GMAT, just common enough. I thought it was worth some space in the video. Second thing, this one's much more common. This whole business of minimization or maximization, especially on data insights, data sufficiency, two-part analysis. You're going to see this kind of thing a lot. You're going to see it on Quant as well. They love it, not just on overlapping sets, but in general. Why? Don't know, but they love it. So we're looking for the least possible probability that both will occur. Okay, so we're in the land of this box right here, both occurring, and I'm trying to minimize this thing. Okay, well, if you step back a little bit and think about how this works, it's kind of a closed system in a way here. This plus this has to equal 0.85. So if I'm minimizing this, I'm going to want to maximize that, right? Same idea here. So you could do this in any direction you want to. I could say, well, hey, if I'm minimizing this, I want to maximize this guy. And just for the sake of completeness, we can finish this up and say, well, yeah, what about this? So if I'm maximizing this, that means that I'm trying to minimize this. Okay, fine. Now you can start basically anywhere, wherever it makes the most sense to you to start. For me, I'm looking at this and going, well, wait a minute. I think it's going to be really, really, really easy to minimize this right here. And then we'll punch some numbers in, see what happens, make sure it works. So the smallest this could be, well, it's not 0.3. It can't be 0.3. So 0.15, maybe, maybe not. Could I have this be 0? Let's see what happens. So it's got to be less than 0.15. Let's see what happens if this is a 0. I get a 0.3 here. I get a 0.15 there. So far, so good. This is working. So what do we get here? Do a little subtraction, 0.7 minus 0.15. We get 0.55. Does that work? 0.85 minus 0.3 also gives us 0.55. Looks like we're in business here. Smallest I can make this one, where neither X nor Y occur. Smallest I can put there is 0. Go ahead and follow it around, do a little bit of arithmetic. There you go, 0.55, that's it. And that's your answer. So nice, simple thing. Once you kind of get away from the intimidation of it, probability, not so bad, works just like anything else in this context. And minimization, just follow the logic around. If this is as small as it can be, this must be as big as it can be, and so on. And again, you're going to see that concept recycled. You'll see it on statistics. We'll bring it up in some other videos as well. A little taste of what it looks like on overlapping sets. All right, last question of the video coming at you. Have some fun with this one. Go ahead and take a couple minutes. Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt your quant viewing experience with that weird big-nosed tutor guy. Chances are, if you've made it this far in the video, you're pretty serious about this whole GMAT thing, and if that's the case, I've got two things I want you to be aware of. First of all, if at any point in your admissions process you could use some help on your applications, we would love to help you find the best admissions consultant for you. So there's a little contact form available at gmatninja.com. You can also find it in a link in our video description. Fill that thing out, pretty short, and we'll send you a list of our very favorite admissions consultants at a number of different companies. Yes, it includes our own company, also several others that we've known for years and trust deeply. We want to make sure you end up in the best hands. We're not going to give your email to anybody else. We're not going to do anything weird with it. We're not going to try to sell you anything. There's no kickbacks, no commissions. We just want to give you our honest, best takes on the best admissions consultants and go pick the one that fits your needs the best. Second thing, we also have a comprehensive MBA admissions playlist here on this YouTube channel. If you're just getting started with the GMAT, haven't thought about admissions yet, I would recommend starting to watch some of those videos sooner rather than later. Get your head around the process, start brainstorming a little bit. I promise it's going to make your life much, much easier down the road. All right, that's it. If you've enjoyed these videos, like, subscribe, you know the drill. All right, back to the quant. All right, more fun with language here. It's a little bit like the suya jollof rice question, where if you really were paying close attention on the data sufficiency, it said everybody ate either suya or jollof or both. The implied number that wasn't very clear right off the bat was nobody ate neither. Okay, not quite the same thing here, but the same sort of idea where there's something kind of buried a little bit in the language. It's really, really easy to miss. No shame at all if you miss this. I think this is a really tough question. Maybe you didn't. On the face of it, it looks like we got a really complex thing here that doesn't fit nicely into the grid we've been using because you've got three different outcomes: approve, disapprove, neutral for each of these policies. But pay attention to what they're looking for here. That's the key to unlocking everything. So how many of these voters said that they approve of A but did not say they approve of B? Really subtle, but notice what they're saying there isn't. So if you did not say you approved of B, that does not necessarily mean you disapproved. If you either approved or you did not say you approved, which meant you could have said disapprove or neutral. Both of those things count as saying count as not saying you approved. Having fun yet, guys? Okay, with that in mind, we can start to shoehorn it back into our nice little grid. So for policy A, you've got approve of A and didn't say you approved of A, right? So no approval of A. And again, that could be either disapproval or neutral. So we know we've got 1,000 voters here. So how many approved of A? That's going to be 400. How many did not say they approved of A? It's going to be 600. So the disapprove plus the neutral. Same idea with policy B. What percentage say that they approved of B? It's going to be 500. And how many did not say they approved of B? That's also going to be 500. Okay, cool. What are we being asked for? How many voters said that they approve of A but did not say they approve of B? So that's going to be this one right here. This is what we're looking for. Okay. With that, statement one here. So 275 approved of B but did not say they approve of A. So if you approved of B, did not say approved of A, that's going to be 275. Same thing we did earlier. I'm going to shove that into a little corner here. Anything I derive from it, I'm going to shove it into a little corner so I don't have to redraw this thing multiple times. So I get a 225 here. And now I know I can get this. Data sufficiency, I don't care what the number is. I know I can get it. 400 minus 225 is 175, but I don't care. I know that statement one is going to be sufficient. I can cross out BCE. All right, statement two, I'm going to smudge out the stuff I got from statement one. Statement two, 325 said they approve of neither. So that's going to be right here. So easy enough, little subtraction. I've got what I want once again. My answer is D. All right, again, no shame if you missed this one. Last three or four questions in this video. Pretty darn tough, this particular one. A little bit obscure, you're gonna run into it once in a great while. All right, bottom line here. If you struggle at all in overlapping sets, it is really all about the language. Be patient with yourself, read twice. Understand that sometimes, so they're not gonna be sloppy with their language, but sometimes there's gonna be little subtext to it, interpretations of it. They're not subtle necessarily, but they're hard to see at first. Give you an extra moment, give yourself an extra few seconds, read super carefully, practice these enough and you're gonna start to see how they phrase these. And they're just consistent enough that over time, I swear you're gonna get better at them. All right, that's all we got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe. If you need some one-on-one help, come see us at gmatninja.com for private tutoring. All right, thank you everybody. Have a great day.